Hey, we got the cameras on? All right. WBH Radio, your host, William Holly. This is episode number 49. And I ain't going to front. I'm kind of excited about this one. First things first, if you are just listening to the audio version of this podcast, please take a second, come over to YouTube, check out the new space, check out the visuals. This is going to be our home for the near future. And just let me know what you think. You love it, you hate it. All comments are welcome. And special shout out to everybody that helped me put this in place. Now, another reason I'm excited about this podcast, we got a special guest. This is a gentleman I've known for some time. I have a lot of respect for him, Mr. Stanley Fevrine. Stan, what's up?
What's up, Will? Thanks for having me. I've never done a podcast before, so this is really dope, and I appreciate you for having me.
That's dope, man. I appreciate you taking out the time. Now, you got to forgive me. You know, I ain't really give you much of an introduction. And when I was in the crib yesterday, I was going through different things. And when I thought of how I was going to introduce you, I said, hold up. Stan is known for doing a bunch of cool different things. So I didn't want to label you and discount some of your accomplishments, achievements, and passions and pursuits in other areas. So I said, you know what? I'm going to have him help me out. So Stan, if you were in this seat, how would you introduce Stanley Fevrine?
Wow, that's tough because I can be real cocky sometimes, but I can also be really humble. But I'm an educator, man. You know, I'm a lifelong educator. That's my purpose. You know, I coached at Brooklyn College for 14 years. I've been teaching for about 14, 15 years as well. You know, before that I was working with people with disabilities. You know, I've always had my hands in education in some way or form, and just working with young people, or, you know, just people in general.
Got you. Because I have the resume right here, man. Like you said, you coached at Brooklyn College for 14 years. You know, that's where I first met you. You're an educator. What do you teach at the high school level?
High school level. Yeah.
Which class?
History, special ed. You name it. I'm like at my school right now. I'm not in the classroom anymore.
Okay.
Right. So my label has become like the director of culture.
Right.
So I deal with everything that has to do with culture inside of the school. So I'm a dean there as well.
Wow.
So I'm doing a whole bunch of things there.
You wearing a whole bunch of hats. And, you know, I mentioned the basketball, the teaching. You and your team just opened a restaurant.
Yeah. My lady.
Not only that, but you're doing some nonprofit work geared towards teaching leadership skills and some of the high school athletes. I was talking to my man Flo. He said you promoting and managing events.
Yeah, at the Barclays Center.
Right.
Yeah.
If we really want to go back, you know, we mentioned that you coached college basketball, but your days as a college student, you played volleyball.
I played volleyball. Yeah, I did.
While serving as the president of...
Well, I wasn't the president.
Okay.
I was supposed to be the president of BSU.
BSU, what's that?
The Black Student Union.
At Brooklyn College.
Yeah. So I was supposed to be the president. However, I was working full time. Gotcha. Right. So I never, you know, my girlfriend at the time, I asked her to do it. She took over and ran with it and did a great job. I always had my hands in it, but yes. So I was the president of the Black Student Union in hindsight, but not, you know.
Making it happen since way back. And Stan, I don't even think I have a question for you. I just wanted you to speak to the importance or the value in having varied experiences. And not just having an experience, but from the outside, it seems that you've been able to acquire skills from these different areas, cultivate them, harness them, and use them to propel you to your next move.
So I'll tell you a little bit about that, right? I'm gonna start from scratch, right? It's a long story.
Okay, we here.
If you got time for it.
I'm here.
So I was born in Haiti, right?
Yes.
My mom and dad both Haitian.
Okay.
I leave Haiti when I'm 1.
All right.
Right? So moved to Flatbush. It's me and my younger brother. Right, he's 2 years younger than me. He's also a football coach. He's an educator. He played pro football as well.
Dope.
You know, So it's me and him. We're teaching each other. Both my parents can't speak much English, so we're kind of teaching ourselves as we get older. We're also fighting this thing, right? Being Haitian, growing up in Flatbush in the '80s, we were like the Mexicans of now. Like we were getting picked on heavy.
I know it.
Media wise,
I know it.
and in the street,
Yes.
and inside of school. So there wasn't nothing that school was able to teach us to protect ourselves.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Because in media, they're saying that the Haitians brought AIDS over.
for sure.
So now we fighting this battle inside of school. It's like, ew, the Haitians.
Right.
So before I was black, I was Haitian,
Yes.
right? But in school, I'm learning about racism.
Right.
It's just not adding up.
Okay.
Right? And I get bussed out in middle school. So bussed out back then, they were sending us randomly to schools that didn't have children of color.
Real? In the
Districts.
80s in Brooklyn?
Districts, yeah. So it's called busing.
From Flatbush to.
Flatbush to Bensonhurst.
Wow.
And this is in the times of Yusef Hawkins
Okay.
and things of that sort, right? So Bensonhurst at the time was still very much, had a lot of, there was heavy racism still in Bensonhurst.
Yes.
But I was so happy that I left school in Flatbush because I didn't have to fight no more.
Okay.
I get to Bensonhurst, I'm finally black.
All right.
This whole world that I'm living in is actually making sense now. I'm like, oh, these are the white kids that they were talking about.
Right.
But the white kids, I never had no issues with them because I was athletic.
Okay.
So this is where sports kick in,
Yes.
right? So through sports, I learned there's a certain all that went out the door then as kids.
All of that racism.
All that racism.
Right.
Back in Flatbush, no matter how good I was at anything, I'm still Haitian. But now I'm over there and I get to experience a new side of me, the athletic side. Mm-hmm. So, and my gym teachers and people of that sort were very, they pushed me.
Yes.
And I appreciated it then. Even though I lost a lot on learning about myself.
Yes.
In terms of the classroom. But I learned a lot in terms of people. Mm-hmm. And those people skills at the time kind of pushed me later on in life because I learned something different from what I was seeing and hearing every day. Right. One of the reasons I love play, and I'll tell this to anybody listening, is why I stay involved with athletes and sports. And even I can be real immature at times. Well, what people consider immature,
right.
Because I'm always so playful.
Right.
I believe through play, you exercise your mind, body, and soul at the same time. You can't lie through play.
Okay.
It's very hard. You play ball well.
Yes, sir.
If somebody's a chucker on the floor, if you're not passing that rock on a 2-on-1,
yes,
and that man's wide open, there's a good chance you're a selfish person in life.
Yes, sir.
There's a very good chance. If you're selfless during basketball, you're taking charges, you and me could probably be best friends.
Yes.
So I learned that through sports. It all added up. High school. Now, I'm a good basketball player in junior high.
Okay.
I'm even a better baseball player, right? I lost my father when I started junior high school, okay. Right? As I was about to start, he was a big baseball guy. So, he wasn't around anymore to kind of push us on that wave. Right. So I'm like, damn, I'm really feeling basketball, but my mom does not let me go to the park to play by myself. I'm from Caton. Right. So she's like, nah, you can't go over there. Those guys, and back then, the drug dealers, they didn't even have to play ball. They were just on the court.
Yes,
they were
sir.
just there.
Yeah.
So she's watching from the window. She's like, you can't cross the street. So I got to sneak across the street to play sports and ball and stuff like that. But that's where I get to be myself.
Right.
Right. Me and my younger brother, I'm taking him with me. So he was also very athletic.
So this is like the foundation.
This is the foundation.
This is the foundation for everything you would become as a coach and an educator.
Everything. And what really caught me, and I kind of skipped over this, when my father passed away in 5th grade. When my father passed away, I was about 10 years old, right? My older brother just came from Haiti. It's not my mother's son, it's my father's son.
Yes.
So he just came up. So we all, he's probably 14. He's just getting started with school, high school. I'm in 5th grade. My younger brother's in 3rd grade, right? Dad passes away. My mom develops mental illness.
Okay.
Literally, like that year.
Happens. Trauma's real.
Right. So she's not working anymore, and she's not herself. but I can't tell at the time that she's not. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like I'm a kid.
Yes.
But things ain't right. Sports did it. I mean, sports was it. And I learned how to be tough through play. I learned how to be resilient. And I just kept building on it.
Right.
Me, my brothers, all of us. So, middle school is done. My identity changes again. I leave Bensonhurst and I go to Grady.
William E. Grady High School, Coney Island, Brooklyn.
District 21. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about District 20, 21, and 22. Those districts are historically non-black districts,
Yes.
right? The teachers in those districts historically are non-black teachers,
Yes.
right? The Bell Parkway is right there.
Yep.
So, you know, you could just come from Long Island, Staten Island, all that. You could just come right on in. It's a
Yes.
great spot to, you know, in terms of travel to come work if you're living outside of, you know.
This area,
yeah.
Brooklyn, Coney Island. Yes.
My school was special because it was 90% black and 90% boys.
Okay.
No other school was built like that.
Well, the nickname for Grady is No Lady Grady.
There's no Lady Grady.
Because the focus there is kind of like technical air conditioning,
At the time, it was,
HVAC.
it was vocational. So I was doing HVAC and climate control.
No Lady Grady, yes.
Some of my friends did auto, you know, and we worked in live shops.
Yes.
But the thing was, you had Bed-Stuy, Brownsville, East New York, Flatbush, East Flatbush, Red Hook, Gowanus. Everybody, Canarsie, everybody was in that building.
Was there, yep.
And all boys.
Yep.
So my first day of school, I said, "Ma, I need out of here. This is crazy. Like, I can't be here."
Right.
But what I learned was, I learned brotherhood.
Okay.
I had shop 3 times a day straight. So you had your academic classes, but you had shop periods 3, 4, and 5. So I developed a brotherhood through teamwork because we worked in these shops together. But even more so, I learned that. Remember, I started off. It was like, how to just be Haitian.
Right.
Right. And then in middle school, okay, I can be black now.
Okay.
In Grady, are you from the projects or are you not?
Right.
And so I saw the socioeconomic factor of being black, the image of being black. It wasn't just about, what country you was from anymore.
Right.
It was what neighborhood you lived in.
Yes, sir.
Right? And how you was living. And that changed me, man, because it made me very open to, everybody got a story.
Yes, sir.
And you got to listen. I can't tell you your story. I can only listen to you. I can't assume. Even though we all do that, but you got to tell me your story.
Got you.
And then I just moved from there.
So, how would you describe yourself as a coach? What did those experiences, like what role did they play in who you were as the man on the bench coaching young ladies at Brooklyn College and some of the other coaching jobs I've seen you do around the city?
So when I completed my education in Brooklyn, right, when I was done, I said, here's an opportunity to coach either the men's team or the women's team.
Right.
Both teams weren't good.
Right.
I mean, really bad on both ends, right? I was supposed to play on the men's team.
Yes.
But again, I had a full-time job. It wasn't going to happen. So what I wanted to do was coach the men's team.
Okay.
I was coaching little kids. I was coaching I got this little cousin named Jordan. He became a pro football player, got a Division I scholarship, went to school for free, all that great stuff. He went all city in football and basketball, right? And me and my brother really helped raise him alongside his family as well. But coaching him when he was a kid, I said, you know what? I want to coach college sports. Right. So I approached Alex at the time.
Alex, who's head coach?
Alex Lang. He was the head coach of the women's team. But I didn't want to coach the women's team. He was a sports information director at the time. Okay. I was trying to, and I had a relationship with Alex. So I asked him, I said, look, I want to coach the men's team. What do you think? Like, how can I go about that?
Right.
And he had just got a position open for the women's team. Okay. So he had no coaches at the time. So he mentions that he has no coaches. Right? So I'm like, okay. I said, what would I have to do to coach your squad? Man, I didn't want to coach women, but it seemed like an opportunity. He said, well, if you coach the summer league team, let me see how you do, and we'll move from there. Well, I ran home. I read every basketball book you could think of. I'm talking about everything from X and O's to how to act to everything. Right? I thought it was such a great opportunity. So I.
But that's an interesting part. I didn't know that you weren't necessarily looking to coach the women.
Nah, not at all.
And even
I
though
wanted no smoke.
even though it wasn't the, I guess, most desirable position, like on your to-do list, you want to coach the men, you jumped at the opportunity. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things I think is most impressive about your journey. It's not about always what you want to do. This is what's in place, right? The women's opportunity is here. Maximize it while you're here.
Stay in your purpose.
Maximize it. And that's something you did. You understand there for 14 years. I talked to many of your players. They swear by you. And again, using these experiences to propel yourself, right? And sometimes I see a lot of these young athletes, they get pigeonholed, or I'm just a basketball player, or I don't want to do that, and they let great opportunities get away. Like, again, what would you say to them about, you can map out your journey. Every step along the way is not going to be ideal, right? And another thing I want to speak to you about, personal branding. Mm-hmm. Like you tell your own story. You know what I'm saying? Like, I coached at the junior college level. I coached my cousin. I'm a teacher. But you went into that room and you convinced the man that, hey, I could be a coach, even though you never played college basketball. Right? How do you do that?
So what I would say to answer your first question, when it comes to young people, right, and I had to battle this myself, but I battled that early.
Battle what exactly?
This idea of fear. Okay. Right. I don't believe fear and love can sit in the same seat. Right. I don't believe in that. I believe you're either acting out of fear or you're acting out of love. Right. There's this idea of falling in love. I don't believe in that neither. Okay. How can I fall in something that I already am? I was born this.
Yes, sir.
So if I have this in me already, right, and I have this passion, if I want that for me to stay in my purpose, I have to act out of love.
Okay.
Love for myself, love for the situation, love for the opportunity.
Yes.
I'm gonna act out of love. So many young people act out of fear because they haven't been put in a position to battle the fears that they have, or even more importantly, they weren't conscious that they already overcame that fear. Okay. So they revisit it over and over again, but you've overcome it. You're just not conscious. Yes. So I would definitely advise young people, to definitely sit down with that idea of love and fear and really ask yourself, am I making the decision out of love or am I making it out of fear? But in terms of opportunities and branding, I don't even like to use branding. Okay. Right? That's a word that's, really come into effect.
I don't like it either. It sounds inauthentic.
Yeah, I don't like it. And I'm glad you said that. So I've always been authentic. Alex saw me play ball. Right. He saw the energy that I brought. He saw me lead my guys. Yes. Guys that were on the team. He watched me lead them.
Lead them in what, open gym or something?
Open gym, tournaments everywhere. Right. So our rec games back then, and you could ask Penny, our rec games back then were crazy intense.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, because you had so many guys that were so good but wasn't on the team. Right. But these guys were skilled players. Yeah. They transferred from all types of walks and they played ball. Yeah. And we were all very passionate about the game and knew how to play the game. Mm-hmm. So you coming off double down screen into a back screen. This is happening in rec. Right. And, guys are boisterous, loud, yes, but respected. And, we had the whole BSU thing. Almost everybody on the basketball team was part of BSU.
Black Student Union.
Yeah. So we had a big family, and we were really carrying this movement. And I was kind of at the head of the movement. I wasn't the leader, so to speak, right, but I was up there. So there was some respect.
So the coach at Brooklyn College, he recognized game like, yo.
Yeah.
This man got the voice of the people.
And I didn't play volleyball.
Right.
I never played volleyball a day in my life. I barely ever played.
But you was on the team.
I was on the team and I played my role.
Right.
I stayed in good standing, and I played my role effortlessly in terms of being a player, not the skilled player, but just showing up and being there and being there for my guys. And the volleyball guys were very different from the basketball guys. It's not the same type of guys,
Right.
but made it work.
Yes, sir. Black Student Union.
Mm-hmm.
What's the mission of that organization? What are some of the initiatives you guys were part of? Because I didn't really take much part in campus life. So if you could just help me understand, like, what was going on there.
So Brooklyn College is very deceiving in terms of, not deceitful, but very deceiving in terms of its black population. It may seem like, when I first got there, it seemed like, damn, we got a lot of black students here.
Right.
But then I realized there's not that many black students at the school. They just hang out in all the same spaces. You know what I'm saying? So, and also you have this divide. You got the Caribbeans, you got the Africans, you got your whoever identifies as black, and what that means. So my initial infatuation with the Black Student Union had nothing to do with anything of culture.
Right.
It was a place to go sit down and have lunch.
Okay.
So I was looking for somewhere, between my job and class to just go sit down and eat. So one day after rec, I was shooting around. This kid Niles was on the basketball team. Niles the Lane. He said, "Yo, Stan, pull up. Let's go have lunch downstairs."
Right.
0700. This is before that whole West Quad and all of that.
Right.
So I go down there and we're chopping it up. We're talking about everything from women to basketball to money.
Yes.
And it was just good conversation because guys are coming straight from class, so they got all types of ideas.
Yeah.
So I said, I kind of like this, and they weren't active at the time. So I said, how do we get this to be active?
Yeah.
We had a young lady down there that knew the paperwork behind it. We called her Squeaky, and she just made it work, and then we just went on from there. So anybody that played ball at Brooklyn,
Yes.
be like, you gotta join the Black Student Union. And then it just became a thing.
And y'all was recruiting new people?
We had all the ball players, so now the girls want to come.
Got you.
So now the girls are coming. We got the girls, we got the guys. We didn't understand the framework of other clubs on campus and how to network and how to bring money together and stuff like that. But we did become we became influential because we were throwing events.
Right.
We were, going on trips. Went to Atlanta to go to the Martin Luther King museum.
That's dope.
Baltimore, the black. We did everything.
That's dope. That's interesting though that you said the basketball team was a big part of the Black Student Union. My experience on Kingsborough and playing at York and even coaching now and watching young folks. And if anybody's seen one of my latest podcasts, I talk about everything is ball is life, right? They're not really getting involved in things outside of what's taking place on the court. And I believe like they're losing and missing out on opportunities. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you know, I didn't play high school basketball, right? I went to the Army. But so many of those lessons I learned in the Army, reading different books, having different experiences, riding motorcycles, that contributed to having success on the court. So, Stan, what do you say to the athlete that say, "Yo, coach, man, I ain't got time for that BS. I got to play this ball," right?
So I'll tell you. So two things. One, I noticed the reason I really grew to enjoy coaching the women's game, because women don't live by baller's life. They might say it, but they don't live by baller's life. Women will work out, get ready for a season, do all these different things, and still, I want to be a nurse. I want to be a teacher. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be whatever.
Right.
And they still locked in on that, and still thinking, like, in a couple years, I want to have a family. Like, they're thinking much past this moment.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Sometimes to a fault, because it's like, look, I need you to lock into this moment. I need you to lock in. You only got 4 years to play.
Let's get it.
Let's get it. But so I enjoyed that. The men, I mean, you could be the worst player on the team, and you still think you're going to the league. Right. So you have these displaced goals a lot of the time with the men. So coaching the women, I didn't have to deal with that too much. However, working at the high school, right?
Yes.
Working at Grady and watching the boys, I'm like, whew. So that's why I started the leadership. I started the leadership in sports program from scratch. So I did some research. I played around with some things. I took a lot of experiences that I got from Brooklyn College. And I said, how can I teach not just the basketball players, but the athletes that their experiences, no matter how good or bad they are as basketball players,
yes,
that these experiences matter in life and can propel you. So I sat down, composure, character, confidence, all these different things. I tried to figure out creative ways to show them that in basketball. So Penny's Coach Jeff, his team was going through a slump.
Coach Jeff, head coach of the Brooklyn College Bulldogs.
Yeah. His team was going through a slump, and things were just falling apart, just a little bit. Mm-hmm. And Jeff was a player. He coached a couple championship teams, and he knew what I was doing with the leadership. So he said, Stan, I'd like you to come in. And I don't know if I offered it. I might have offered it. Right. I think he was telling me a story. I said, yo, Jeff, let me come in and let me do something with the boys.
Let's talk about this program. This is the nonprofit work I was referring to, right?
So this is at Grady right now. Yeah.
Right.
So it's not just Grady. It's a couple different schools, but
leadership. What's it called? Leadership
in sports.
Stan, you can't teach leadership. Either you born or you not.
And you know what? That's some people are better leaders than others.
Right.
Some people have it, but to say you're born with it is so discrediting to your experiences.
Okay.
Because somebody could look at me and say, Stan, you're a good leader. But I had to fight battles earlier on than some other people. Okay. I might have got lucky in some instances to win some of those battles or to have the guidance at the right time for. So to say that, you're either born a leader, it discredits a lot of people's experiences. You know what I mean?
So what are some of the things you teaching, some of the initiatives you guys you have in place over there?
So one of the things I like to really start with is...
And this is with the high school athletes at Grady.
Football, basketball. So let me explain. So I'm the leadership coach for the girls basketball team,
yes,
varsity basketball team, the JV boys basketball team, the varsity boys basketball team, the rugby team, the JV football team, and the varsity football team.
Okay.
So I don't deal with no X and O's, right? Kids come to me once or twice a week. We're in the classroom. Mm-hmm. We talk about leadership, from everything from confidence, character, refocusing, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. I show videos. We have conversations. I bring in guest speakers. On game day, mm-hmm, I'm on the sideline.
Right.
We're probably the only school in the whole PSL that has this. On game day, I'm on the sideline, but I'm not dealing with no X and O's.
Okay.
I'm dealing with all the things that we talked about. So if a kid's coming out of what I call green, so one of the lessons that we have is it's the traffic light lesson. It's based on composure.
Green, red, yellow?
Green, red, yellow. It's very simple, and it's very easy to remember. So if you're in green, things are going well. If you're in yellow, you start to notice that there's a change happening, right? And in red, you just blacked out, right?
And their behavior, changing their behavior?
Their focus, and that's for the student, for the student athlete to be aware of. Because your green might not be my green.
Right.
Your yellow might not be my yellow. So that's for you. That you got to be honest with yourself. Am I in yellow right now? Mm-hmm. So a lot of young people, when they get into yellow in pressure situations, they allow themselves to go into red because they just don't got the strategies to go back into green, or the environment, the team environment that'll allow you to do that. And I witnessed it while coaching at Brooklyn College. I mean, everybody knows we played in a lot of championship games.
Right. And
a lot of those games didn't go exactly the way we wanted.
Yes.
Even though we dominated all season. We have so many regular season championships. Like it's a great program.
Yes.
But when, as a coach, I realized, like, if we're not training them from the first day to be leaders of self,
yes, sir,
by the time they get to that game, it's too loud. They can't hear us no more.
Yeah.
There's too much going on. There's cameras that they've never seen before. You have courtside. People are sitting courtside now. There's so much going on. it can go by like that, and you don't even really you don't even know how it happened. So to be in the moment, we created that, and that's the lesson I had with Jeff's guys.
That's dope. That's dope, man. Speaking of leadership, I was going to ask you, what'd you guys do for the Super Bowl this year?
Talking about like
just you personally, like what'd you do?
So we were supposed to have it at the restaurant.
Right.
I was very excited. You know, my lady just opened up a restaurant, so I was very excited. You know, Super Bowl, but COVID wouldn't let us be great.
Cuomo wouldn't let us do it.
Cuomo.
But no, so what'd you think about the game? What was the story coming out the game for you?
Man, that was rough to watch. Right. So Patrick Mahomes, right? You got this very talented quarterback, right? And Tampa Bay had an amazing scheme. To me personally, they just had a better scheme. They fake blitzed, as you know. They act like they was gonna come at him, because usually when you come at him, he's able to go. Right. He's able to run. So they would come at him halfway, and then pull back. So what they were doing was getting him in running mode.
Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, they just got him in running mode. So by the time they got him in running mode, he wasn't making reads no more. He was just running all over the place. You saw the game. He looked crazy. His composure, and it's a balance of the staff and him. And I promise you, he'll never let that happen again.
That's funny you mentioned composure, especially somebody that was in the championship game just a year before, right? You talk about the game from the perspective of a football player. I ain't never been in the trenches. I ain't never put my hand in the dirt. For me, it was only one story, Stan. That's Tom Brady, right? And jumping off of the conversation, you talking about what you're doing at Grady, leadership in sport. Tom Brady's leadership is second to none. That's it. You know, I wrote a paper recently, and I mentioned that Tom Brady at one point was the youngest quarterback to win a Super Bowl, and now probably three times over, he's the oldest quarterback to win a Super Bowl. What's the one constant between that wide spectrum of age difference, right? The arm strength ain't the same. The muscle density ain't there, right? His leadership skills. You know what I'm saying? The ability to walk into an organization and inspire guys to be the best version of themselves. You talk about being in charge of self. That moment didn't look too big for those guys. You know what I'm saying? And I go back to, even before the season started, Tom Brady calls Gronk out of retirement, right? That's not a football call. That's Shaka Zulu. That's Tom Cruise, The Last Samurai. That's what, yo, dog, I'm about to go in uncharted territories, and I need you to watch me.
Right now.
That's leadership. That's dope, son. And that's what I saw, Stan.
So and the Tom Brady thing, right? Not the Tom Brady thing, because he is amazing. Right. Great leader, right? And you see how he changes an organization. He came in and things just changed over there. Yes, sir. Right? The reason I like to focus on Mahomes in that situation is because that's never been done to him before. So you got to ask yourself, what happened to him, right? The Tom Brady role model, like that model, to watch Tom Brady, like Jordan and Brady and Kobe, to watch those guys that come up with the solutions of why they're so great, is almost easy. It's like, you know what? Kobe's a no-nonsense guy. Yes. He comes in, he takes this amount of shots every day. This is what he does, right? Jordan, yo, you saw Last Dance. Yo, everybody got to be, if I'm putting in this work, right, you're putting in this work. Brady, same thing. Guys like Mahomes have been proven to be great leaders. Something went wrong. Okay. So for my young people, right? I've had I'll take some of the girls that I coached, the women I coached. They were great leaders all season. Right. All season. You get to this game and this thing happens. They just don't perform on the same level, and then people just be like, she blew it. Right. Not knowing that the culture, the culture to for that not to happen wasn't there. Right. I remember the first championship that we was up by 10, right, at halftime. And we're playing against top seeded Baruch. To be up by 10, it seemed like everything that we worked on in practice, everything that we did everybody's locked in.
Yes.
They made adjustments at halftime. We did too. What we weren't prepared for was to fail a little bit.
Okay.
We just weren't prepared to fail a little bit.
Right.
Right? And I remember myself, and I said, you can never let this happen to you again.
What happened? What'd you do?
Myself as a coach, the second half felt like 5 minutes.
Okay.
It went by so fast.
Okay.
To the point where I was like, what did I do?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? To like, what did I do to help those young ladies in battle?
Right.
That's why I never blamed not one of them. Because I'm like, what did I do to help them?
Right.
And then, in the off season, it's a long off season. So you're sitting there, you're thinking about it. You're like, damn, what could have I done?
Right.
So I had to go be better. I watched a lot of film. I read a lot of books, and I just got better. Like, all right, look, I got to be a straight samurai warrior.
Yes.
Next time, where like this can't happen to me. I have to always be in the moment. But for me to be able to do that, I got to be like that from the beginning of the season.
Yes, sir.
So I started paying attention to girls' moods, like our players' moods when things didn't go right. If we were doing a shooting exercise and you missed 5 in a row, but you just made 15,
right.
but you missed 5 in a row, and you're in the hallway in tears.
Right. We can't have
We got to fix that now because it's going to happen in that game.
There's going to be roadblocks in that game.
It's going to happen in that game.
There's going to be hurdles.
And I know we're going to get to that game because we're good enough.
Yes.
But what's going to happen in that game can't be what happens. Like, we can't have that to be a disconnection.
Right.
So that's where the leadership came in.
Leadership is actually something I think is not valued enough or spoken about enough when it comes to sports. I mentioned Tom Brady. He ain't got the physical abilities of some of these guys, but he's able to get it done at this level. So, Stan, you talk about your program. A few things I want to throw at you. Your definition of leadership, how valuable is it, because we see these guys go to the combine and stuff. They got measurables for their arm, their jump. Damn, can you measure leadership?
Depending on your goals, right? Your goals are ever changing. Yes. Right? So the team goals especially. So you might take a team that's, let's take one of our early Brooklyn College teams that was like, 2 and 20 something.
Right.
Right? The kids on those teams, you had leaders on those teams.
Yes.
They were different from the kind of leaders we had when we was winning 20 games, though. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It was just a different way of leading. Leading a team that only won 2 games and leading a team that won 20 games looks different. Right. When it could actually be the same thing.
For sure.
It just looks different.
For sure.
So I wouldn't measure it because it all depends on the goal, especially the goal of the individual. And that's why I focus on self-leadership first before team leadership. Okay. Because you might have one of the most dangerous players. I tell all the kids that I teach leadership, one of the most dangerous players on your team is the player that sits at the end of the bench. Okay. That player, if they're not consistent with what their goals are, if they're not realistic about their goals, it's very hard to coach that person. If that person is not very good, but they're in practice every day, and they're there on time, and they're busting their ass, they believe automatically that they should be playing 25 minutes a game. Right? And when that player doesn't get 25 minutes a game, and everybody else is watching that player put in work, yes, they're like, so why is she not playing? So when you get subbed out the game, and you feel like you should have never been subbed out the game, you're like, damn, you subbed me out the game. You go sit at the end of the bench next to this person. That person's gonna be like, see, I told you. Right. They don't know what they're doing here. That's how the cancer starts. And then that cancer, and then that person, the person sitting next to that person, the person that's sitting next to the bench player, right, has to go back in the game. They going back with that energy. They in straight red. That negative energy, yeah. So they bringing somebody in green into yellow, and it just consistently gets worse and worse and worse. So if the person at the end of your bench is a good self-leader, yes, a solid self-leader, you got a great team. Copy. Stan, you're in the high schools every day,
seen a lot of basketball, man. I've been waiting to ask you this question. What's up with the state of New York City basketball? Specifically at the high school level, the public school level, and like the grassroots AAU teams.
I'll tell you, you want it from the men's or the women's?
The men's team.
All right.
The men's basketball, yeah. New York City basketball, high school. How are we doing?
So it's a struggle right now, right? And it has a lot to do with a lot. It has a lot to do with a lot. A lot of our talented young men aren't seeing, aren't getting to play. They don't play basketball. If they do play, they might play 1 year out of 4 years.
What's going on?
So many aren't making the grade. So we have a lot of young men that have been taught, because in junior high school, right, there's only 24 hours in a day, right? In middle school, if you play in middle school,
Right.
how many times you practice?
Hold on, Stan. They're not making the grades?
They're not making the grades.
And we going in the wrong direction, okay? I went to high school 99 to 2003. In the public school system, we had 3 NBA players, right? Forget, not just the public. In Brooklyn alone, we had 3 NBA players. Gary Forbes, Benjamin Banneker Academy, Quincy Doobie from your beloved William E. Grady, and Sebastian Telfair from Abraham Lincoln. And just before them, Royale Ivy, Benjamin Cardoza. Like, this is NYC, Stan, and we ain't getting close.
When I went to school, we had 4, right? Jaquaid Walls, Norman Richardson, Doobie. But this is what's changed, right?
Tell me. I'm waiting to hear this one.
What's changed is that you have a bunch of young men now, right? A lot of our guys growing up didn't think they were going to the NBA. They just didn't think that it was like there was so many good ball players.
Right.
So even to make Grady's team, you had to be
Top notch.
2 of the guys that I told you about that went to the NBA from Grady had to play JV. That's unheard of now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You get these kids out of middle school, right? They're practicing 1 to 2 days a week.
Right.
Right? And then you have a game.
Okay.
And then you play. You could fail all your classes in middle school and still play on the team. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
When I was in middle school, we didn't even have teams that played against each other.
No way.
You see what I'm saying? So now they get to high school. It's only 24 hours in a day, right? Mm-hmm. How many hours do you sleep?
6, 7.
6, 7, right? Let's say average high school kid, let's say they sleep 8 hours.
8 hours, yep.
Right? So now you're at 16 hours.
See, I got the nightmares. I'm a vet, so I get like 4 or 5. But yeah, normal people get 8.
So now you travel to school, right? You travel to school. Let's say it's an hour, back and forth, right?
Yes.
So we're at 14 hours now. You're in the school building for about 6.5 hours.
Yes.
Classes. So let's just round it off, say 7 hours. You got 7 hours
Yes.
left. High school practice is anywhere from 2 to 3 hours, right? 6 days a week. So now you're at 3 hours. You have now, you're 14, 15 years old. You went from having all this time to yourself to only 3 hours to yourself. You have 6 academic classes.
They're not facing anything that the people before them are not facing.
Listen to me. Yeah, they are. They have more distractions than we did. So now they go home, right? You got 3 hours. They got 3 hours. Their parents are working longer hours than our parents work.
Okay.
That's just across the board,
Okay.
right? Because the cost of living is higher. You might not even have parents home. We went through that too. But now you got Instagram, you got Facebook, you have these social networks, right? So the distraction, it's not an excuse for them,
Right.
but it's an opportunity for us, for people that are asking this question, what's going on with high school basketball? Right. It's very important to understand that our kids have become less self-leaders. They've gotten worse throughout the years. Well, the fact that we had it better doesn't make sense. There's more technology now. There's more. But the disconnect is even deeper because the stories, the success stories, are being produced left and right. The Sebastian Telfair joint.
Yes.
All Sebastian did basically was work out. He worked out in the morning. That's what they show.
Okay.
Right. In his documentary, I mean, through the fire. So
Yes.
they're showing all these things. These kids play a whole lot of basketball. But during a school season, during that season, we're not producing. The best of the best aren't seeing the floor.
Stan, I gotta push back, man, because them kids out of California is facing the same things, right? The kids out of Texas and Florida, they're facing the same things.
And my only argument with that would be that New York City, the PSAL, has the biggest conference in the whole country. There's nothing like it. Nobody comes close.
Okay.
We have the most teams. So
Right.
if you take Cali, right?
California, yes, sir.
Right, and you take a school district in California, you compare it to a school district in New York City, right? Let's take District 17, right, in Flatbush. You take a school like Erasmus, right? And you take a school in District 21, like Lincoln. For a long time now, a lot of the kids that are making noise at Erasmus
Yes.
on the football level
Okay.
aren't even from Flatbush. They're from nowhere near Flatbush.
Right.
That could not be the case back in the day. A lot of the kids that were playing at Lincoln, right? Not a lot, but some of the big name, they didn't live in Coney Island.
Right.
So what you're looking at now is the kids that do come to New York and get busy, most of them don't even be from here, yo.
Right.
So the effort that's being put into this child,
Yes.
that's not even from here, for travel,
Yeah.
they're getting a different type of support. Then you have this thing that's happening, and this is the second piece to it, right? So first I want to talk about the self-leadership in the grades.
Okay.
And the other piece is we have a culture now that we didn't have back in the day. If a kid is at Dewey,
Yes. John Dewey Dragons.
right? And shout out to my boy, man. He's doing a great job over there.
Kayvon Baker.
Kayvon's doing a great job over there. If a kid's at Dewey and they're shining,
Yes, sir.
6'5" wing. Let's just say he's a 6'5" wing, right? And he's killing. Over the summer, you're gonna have to worry about somebody's gonna snatch
Clutch
him.
him. Right.
And how does that happen? So it's rampant. It's rampant. It's every school.
Yes, sir.
So with this happening, you have a bunch of adults, right?
Yes.
Who want to win, but don't see what it's doing to the spectrum
Yes.
of the sport itself, right? And they really believe that it's like what Ohio State does, football.
Okay.
They drive everybody from Chicago to Ohio down to wherever they can get them.
They're going to go get him.
They're gonna go get them, and they bringing them all. Somebody's not going to the NFL.
Right.
Somebody that could have went to the NFL
It's not.
is not gonna go. So you got all these kids in one space. You can't have time for all of them. It's just hard. And then somebody's gonna be underdeveloped. So now it's on the AAU coach to sell the dream.
So how we put things back in order, Stan? And I mentioned those players that came out of public school system. You mentioned some who came out of New York City. I was just thinking, like, the all-time leading scorer in NBA history is a New York product. Like, this is where we came from, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. We had pros upon pros. Lamar Odom, 2-time champion, 6th man of the year. Like, as a city, it feels like we coming up short. My man D.A. always asks me, yo, Will, why the greatest players don't come out of New York City?
So let's go back to leadership, right? Huge aspect of leadership is commitment. The ability to be committed. Again, we're talking about 14, 15-year-olds.
What's the adult, Stan?
This is what I'm getting at. The adults have stopped talking leadership. They're talking winning. Everybody wants to be the guy, right?
And they want to take shortcuts.
And they're going to take shortcuts. They're going to, because it's open to take shortcuts.
Right. So how do we get leadership programs like the one you have in place at Grady? How do we get that in other schools around the city?
Well, the PSL just have to pay me a whole lot of money. I'll make it happen. Stop. Really, I think it's a movement. It's a movement because I do know a lot of people that are involved in it, that want to be involved in it. My man Corey McFarland from Grand Street. Jose Rivera at Collaborative Studies.
It's crazy out there, Stan.
My brother. It's just that New York again is the biggest public school system in the whole country. So
The whole thing is out of whack, man. You got some kids going to school. They don't want to go to the school unless they guarantee the starting spot. Like, whatever happened to sitting at the lunch table, biting your nails, wondering if you're going to try out and make it?
well, also they should have never started up that whole JV championship stuff. Playing for a JV championship, that's a whole nother thing.
Right.
So there's kids that should be on varsity, but they want a JV championship.
Right.
It's nuts out here. The key is though, if we start looking at basketball as a sports in general, sports as an avenue for reality, because we have so many kids with these misplaced goals.
Yes.
We have kids that really want to go to the NBA and play basketball. That's fine. I love that actually.
For sure.
But when are we going to teach them about the industry of basketball?
Amen.
So now, if I can teach you about
You got to sign a contract.
Brother, Kobe, the general manager for the
Rob Pelinka?
no, the general manager for the Cavs, Kobe
Ullman.
He went to New Utrecht.
Dope.
You know what I'm saying? He went to a D3.
Dope.
So the point is, our kids, especially New York City kids, they're so charismatic. They've been through so much.
Right.
They're socially, how you have IQ. These kids have social intelligence on levels where they could be great all over the world.
Big time.
We gotta start talking different. We gotta expose them to more.
Right.
We took our kids to Madison Square Garden last year to introduce them to the IT department.
Dope.
At the Garden. There's different ways to go about this basketball thing. Right. It doesn't have to. I never played and I started coaching.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I see it from that level. I'm like, damn, this is what coaching brought me.
Right.
And now I can create my own programs and I can do all these different things for my community. There's so much that you can do. You don't just have to be a basketball player.
Right. Because even if you are a basketball player, there's contracts to be signed. You got to buy houses. You got sharpening your skills in other areas is not going to prevent you from going to the league. I ring the bell wholeheartedly that it only going to enhance your abilities.
Now to be able to do those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had it. So interestingly enough, Maya that played for us at Brooklyn College, she became the president of the Black Student Union.
Dope.
I recruited Maya in high school.
Yes.
Maya wasn't talking like that in high school. Maya became this person on campus,
right.
And she had a hard time when she first got to Brooklyn in terms of balancing those 24 hours.
Copy.
Then she found out a way to master her 24 hours and she just started to excel. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Those 24 hours, when you learn how to master it, because what happens is you set the goal.
Yeah.
Right? You set the goal. And then you say, all right, how can I achieve this? I'm going to have to get up every day and go do this and go do that and go do this. Then you find yourself waking up every day and doing those things. Then you get to your goal.
Yes.
And if you need to refocus, you can refocus because you covered all this ground. You know what I mean? Our kids, their challenge with commitment is discipline. So it's like, and I tell them, I always ask them, guys, what's discipline? Yeah. And it's a very hard question for a lot of people to answer when you ask them what's discipline. There's this thing that you got to do right here, right? There's this thing that you need to do. Mm-hmm. But there's this other thing, God, I really want to do this. At that moment, you got to choose.
Yes, sir.
Our kids are choosing this on a daily basis.
Yes.
That's dangerous because now the man that they become after basketball is setting over, you got to have a family.
Yes, sir. That rent's due on the first.
That rent's due on the first. How you gonna pay your rent if you're making it rain on a nightly? Like these images are nuts. Like and so one of the things that I'm pushing right now is for young men of color, especially black men.
Yes, sir.
For us to have a voice, to recreate our voice, especially in these images. So my brother's keeper that I'm a part of, and I'm a chairman for, that's giving me the opportunity to really work with young men in organizations to give young men a voice, especially the athletes. I have a lot of athletes that are part of my brother's keeper. And I did it on purpose because I'm like, nah, you know what? We're going to switch this up. I want to show you something different.
Okay. I saw something on TV the other day and made me think of you. I said, man, I'm glad he's coming on the podcast. I asked him. It was a news story, and there were some parents who they're ready for their kids to go back to school. Not just here in the city, but around the country. And I had no idea this was going on. I thought we were all on the same accord that it's probably best that we stay home and be safe. But these parents are like, no, get these kids out of the house. But some teachers and their unions are like, yo, hold up. We don't want to go back until you guys have some safety measures in place for us. And, here in New York City, the junior high school kids went back recently, but the high school kids are not back yet. So I want to ask you as an educator, what do you make of that standoff that's going on?
So I understand it from both ends. Certain people have their way of looking at things in terms of COVID.
Yes.
Some people are like, look, I don't know what that is. Sounds crazy. I ain't dealing with it. Other people are like, that sounds like a flu to me. So I'll be fine.
Right.
It's two sides to it. For the parents that want their kids to go back, I totally understand. Because what you have, especially depending on the age group. So let's just talk about high school.
Yes.
You a parent, you send your kid to school. They eat twice at school. The TV's not on. Water's not running. Your bills are less with your kids outside the house.
Yes.
Kids go to school. You putting up some. They're gonna eat you out of house and home, and then you're watching your kids become, possibly not all, but so many kids became less motivated. So many kids added on weight. You know what I'm saying? So you see the effects of just staying home all the time, and then if they're not going to school, you probably don't want them to go outside neither. So now this child is getting this. You're putting them in a small box.
Right.
In some very important years of their lives, So I could see why parents opt for the kids to go back in the building.
Got you. And like you said, you could understand both sides.
Yeah.
And it's not in this great country. It's not about what's right or wrong. It's about what you can negotiate.
Choices. Yeah. Choices and opportunities.
Right.
Yeah.
And if the teachers union is in place to say, hey, we're not ready to go back yet, more power to them.
It looks like the middle schools are back. Right? Yeah. The high schools. It looks like the signs all show. I had a meeting today. It looks like we'll be back in the building as well.
Got you.
But yeah.
How did these young folks do with this distance learning, Stan? Because I couldn't imagine in a million years having to go to school that way. Years from now, are there going to be a whole generation of folks out in the workforce, like the COVID generation, who just behind, lack certain skills, missed out on certain lessons? How bad was it?
So it's funny, right? Because it's this twofold thing. There was a point where we as educators, the rules were like, no cell phones in class.
Yes.
Right. In many schools, you couldn't take a Chromebook home. Right. You couldn't take an iPad.
Laptop,
home,
nope.
Right. You can't even use it for past that period.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we once COVID hit, these things were falling out the sky. Like, what the hell? There's Chromebooks come forth from everywhere. Like, where did these Chromebooks come from?
Backing up the truck to the school.
Yo, I'm like, wow, we had those?
Word.
So we're at the point where we threw them out with the expectation that kids love their device and they ain't know how to use the devices. Mm-hmm. Right? So the first couple of months was hard because one, you had to make sure that every kid had a device. Then you got kids, certain families got 3 kids in the crib, and they're using one device.
Right.
Device breaks down. You got to bring it back up to the school or the schools. There was so much going on.
Yes.
Now we're at the point, I think we've lost a lot of kids. Right.
Lost them where?
They're not signing on.
Okay.
They got to sign on. Yeah. And they're not signing on. So I think the issue now is getting the kids to stay consistent. Mm-hmm. It's hard, and I'm sure a lot of schools are still having an issue with, getting kids the equipment. But the other piece is, one, are the kids able to use the equipment? Right? Are they proficient in that? Mm-hmm. And two, are the parents? Because now the parents have to be more proficient.
Why is that to check over the work?
I mean, for everything. So there's pupil path, right? And there's all these different
programs and softwares.
programming software is for parents to check on their kids' grades,
Yes.
right? And if they don't know how to use it, whether they speak English, I mean, if it's a language barrier or if can they just do it? You know, there's a lot going on there. Also, you have, it's so much. You also have this thing where, like the middle schools, right now is middle school application time. The guidance counselors have less power now in terms of the applications. The parents have to fill it out online.
Yes.
So the parents have to do this.
Right. For a middle schooler looking to go to high school.
High school.
Okay.
I mean all schools.
Right.
Now. So they got to do this, and the parents usually, if the parents were slacking, the guidance counselor would just boom, 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 right? But now it has to be on the parents' end.
Right.
So now we're seeing that a lot of parents have a hard time using devices, and then kids also are struggling with their own high school applications. This is their future we're talking about. So this idea that they knew how to use computers and stuff like this, we have an issue. Like we got to make sure that our young people can use the devices outside of social media and things of that sort.
Right. Well, hopefully that whole distance thing's coming to an end soon.
I can't wait.
We hope.
I can't wait.
I wanted to ask you this. You and your lady recently opened up a restaurant.
Yeah, my lady, really.
We were lady. Okay. What's the name of the restaurant?
For Purpose.
For Purpose.
Yeah.
Where is it?
Bed-Stuy, 1489 Fulton Street.
Okay. And how long you guys been open?
About a year now. Approaching a year.
So like hard
So
of COVID.
about 9 months.
Hard of COVID.
Hard of COVID. So it's supposed to be open before that.
Right.
But COVID hit, really pushed it back a little bit. But she's a go-getter for real.
Right.
And her and her team is very, very smart. Everybody says it's my, it's my restaurant.
Right.
I'm an extension of her.
Yes.
In terms of the sports community and bringing that together because it's a sports bar. But she's doing a great job.
When I learned that you part of opening this restaurant, I was excited because, we all got goals and dreams. The hard part is execution.
Mm-hmm.
Not many of us know how to go from dream to getting it done. I know myself, I'm guilty of that. I be in the crib. Sometimes I'm paralyzed by all my thoughts and, I want to do this. But to execute is another thing. So Stan, if you were close to that process, you and your girl, if you could give us maybe like a quick rundown of how you go from having $1 in a dream to having a restaurant on full, how to get that going.
So she was the manager at Bleachers when Bleachers first opened, another sports bar on Flatbush. Bleachers at the time was doing really, really well. That's why I met her, right? So she always had plans on opening up her own sports bar one day, right? Now, going back to this conversation about fear and love.
Okay.
Now, she loves this industry, but she had a lot of fear in terms of like how to make that work.
Yeah.
And just a step-to-step, side to it where she was really worried, like maybe it wouldn't work out.
Sure.
Maybe a loan wouldn't go through. Maybe she thought of everything that could possibly go wrong instead of everything that would go right. So anyway, she leaves Bleachers. She's doing other jobs and she's building her own network. And then some people that she went to high school with who've always noticed her hard work reached out and said, look, listen, I believe in you. Let's do this together. So she said, Stan, if I do this, I might have to leave my job. So on my end, me and her talk about purpose all the time. So that's what we call it, purpose.
For purpose.
Yeah. So it's for them. I wanted just purpose. Right. And it's for them. So they decided to go by for purpose. But we talk about purpose all the time. And I told her, like, as long as you're in your purpose, I'm always have your back. So I did what I had to do on my end in sacrifice so she could do what she wanted to do.
Right.
And she's done that for me 1,000 times. But, that was a moment where it's like, are we really gonna do this? Because if we do this, this is what it's gonna look like. And she just had a team, man. She had a team. She got a big team.
So the team, they kind of put their own funding. You said maybe there was a loan.
No, they had to take out loans. They had to do all that. Yeah. So there was loans taken out. You had to people put up their other businesses on the side for it. It was a tough process and very scary for her.
Okay.
But to see her in her purpose now, literally,
Yeah.
you know, just doing what she's doing and love doing it on a day-to-day basis, getting up
Right.
and
So
going
what's
to make
that?
it happen.
You guys, you come up with a concept, you come up with a menu, you go find a location
Oh,
first.
all that. So the location part took almost a year.
Really?
So the location part took almost a year, maybe even more than that. Finding the right location. She came across a spot in the sty and still didn't think it was the right location. I was like, "You crazy? Like that's like the heart." So, but they decided to do it. So now doing that, now you got to figure out how you're gonna clean up this place and just put it together. What's the colors of the, you know, what's the design? What's the? It was always gonna be a sports bar restaurant. It was always gonna be that because that's what they were after. Then the liquor license, that's not easy to get. So, you know, some people that knew some people that knew some people, they made it work.
Got you.
The marketing, in terms of getting the people there, was probably the easiest part.
Okay. You press the button?
I pressed a couple buttons. She had a couple buttons under the table as well.
Right.
But yeah, so it really came together. But it took a lot of work, man. It took a lot of work, and a lot of her and her team bump heads a lot.
Sure.
I used to tell her, like, look, if you pay me the right price, I'll do some leadership seminars. Yeah.
Anytime you're creating something, I guess there's gonna be that creative friction and stuff, right?
Yeah. And also roles. Like,
Yeah.
if you don't define those roles, and that could be that doesn't just have to be like business, that's your relationships. If you don't define roles, there's space for a lot of confusion.
Got you. That's it, man. Stan, you got anything else? Get some shout outs, man.
Man.
Big Jeff, what up? I heard you be showing love. Big Jeff.
Yeah, shout out to my whole, first and foremost, shout out to my whole Love is Love team, man. These guys are my brothers, man. We're like 50 deep, and they keep me in check, man, at all times. If I ever get too big-headed, these guys are right there for me. And also gives me a network of men that I can always go to and just vibe with. Shout out to my brother's keeper, everybody involved. Shout out to everybody that ever played at Brooklyn College. Much love to y'all, all the coaches, everyone, man. Shout out to my Grady family, Mom Dukes, my brothers. You know, shout out to you, Will, for having me. I appreciate that. Yeah, man.
That's dope, man. Nah, I definitely appreciate you coming in. Like I said, this is our first episode in the studio, and you were the #1 guest on the list. You know what I'm trying to do here?
Shout out to Nancy too, by the way. I'm sorry.
Nancy.
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah,
You can't forget anybody.
Woo.
Shout out for real. But yeah, I'm a basketball player, but I also want this platform to be about education, business, leadership. You know what I'm saying? Putting on for your community, and you embody all those things, man. So I definitely appreciate you stopping in. For purpose,
Yes.
What's the go-to dish for you?
So I'm on a very interesting diet. So I go with the veggies, but most people right now, what's hot is the blackened salmon.
Okay.
The blackened salmon is what's popping right now.
Got it. I can get down with some fish. Ladies and gentlemen, I told you I knew some cool people, man. Stanley Fevrine, your boy William Holly, we out.